PSG has announced that Thomas Tuchel will be the new manager for the next upcoming season. So in this video I'll bring you all the positives and the negative I think this move could bring. What's going on, guys? ¿Cómo están? BugaLuis here and welcome back to another video here on this channel. Please remember that our mission here is to bring you a worldwide community for football fans to engage in without any of that bullcrap bias that we see on stuff like ESPN FC. On this episode we'll be discussing if Thomas Tuchel is the right manager for PSG, and we'll be taking a look at, like I said previously, all the positives and the negatives that this move could bring. Moreover, before just starting off the video, I would like to remind you all that starting from last week, basically, we're having a full coverage of the World Cup, bringing you updates, informations, as well as group previews. And basically, we're going to bring you match reactions for every single match possible in the group stages and possibly the knockouts as well. So stay tuned for all of that. Moreover, before just starting off the video, I would like to remind you all that we're having a full coverage of the World Cup 2018 here on this channel. So if you're interested in that, well, perhaps just subscribe. So to start off right away, do I think Thomas Tuchel is the right manager for PSG? Yes, I do. Yes, I do. I do think he's probably the best manager they could have gotten. If they look at it in the short term, they could have gotten somebody else. But if you look at it in the long term, I do think Thomas Tuchel is the right man for this job. Basically, Thomas Tuchel and PSG are both virgins to the Champions League. So why don't get two guys together, or PSG and Thomas Tuchel, two entities, because we don't want to offend any people. But if we get those two together, basically, they're going to work harder. They're going to work harder to try and learn exactly how to win this competition. And that is something that I think is going to be good for both Tuchel and PSG. PSG can get the renown that they want, and Thomas Tuchel can get also more price to his name. So it's all going to be everything about them working together for a common goal. Something that previously with Unai Emery, perhaps you could have said, well, Unai Emery hasn't won also the Champions League, but Unai Emery wasn't really going to get that far. He's like a middle tier manager. Thomas Tuchel is a new manager with a lot of experience, young, and certainly has a lot of potential for the future. So they're really gonna work together. I do think it's a very good step in the right direction, but once again, it's all going to be about that long term. If you think about the short term, Thomas Tuchel is not the guy, but I don't think winning the Champions League in a short term is possible. I do think that to win the Champions League, to become that club, to enter that huge stage, that how do you say, like, Hall of Glory, Hall of Fame, if you want to enter the Hall of Fame of the Champions League, it's gonna take time and it's gonna take work. And I do think that PSG need work, and the guy to incentivize that is going to be Thomas Tuchel. How is Thomas Tuchel going to do this? Well, first of all, I think he's going to try to have a different approach to the transfer policies and transfer business of PSG. I don't think he's going to splash money as we've seen in previous years, because I know if you take a look at the PSG squad, you see like they're already like world-class, at least 5 world-class talents. You got Verratti, Thiago Silva, Marquinhos, Neymar, Cavani, Mbappe, 6. I already named 6. Then you got Julian Draxler. You already have very well-established players. But what you need are those players to fill the gaps. You need a good left back. You need a good CDM. You need a backup striker. You need a first-time really good right back. You need to have another center midfielder. You need to have to fill all those voids, and for that you don't need a guy who's going to splash the cash, because you need somebody who knows how to scout players, somebody who can identify players for specific roles, and Thomas Tuchel is very good at doing that. For instance, if he decides to, rather than spend hundreds and hundreds of euros on one player, he could instead use that money to build a squad. He could go, for instance, for Rafael Guerreiro in left back, which I think is a realistic signing, and I'm predicting it from right now. I do think Guerreiro is going to end up PSG next season. Next up, Julian Weigl. Julian Weigl could also go to PSG. He's a player, he has worked before with a Dortmund. He could be a good signing. Somebody like Timo Werner could go to PSG. Moving from RB Leipzig to PSG seems like a good step in the right direction. Somebody like, I don't know, there are many different players that could field into those positions, but I'm no manager. I'm not a scout. Thomas Tuchel is. So I do think he's going to be a good manager in that sense, trying to fill the gaps for PSG and create a squad, an entity, something that before wasn't there. Something, if you get too many superstars, you have too many egos. But in this sense, I think he could get all the players to fill the gaps and create a coherent squad and a coherent chemistry within this team. Basically, it's just all about FIFA. For instance, you have chemistry in FIFA, you have chemistry in real life. And that's something that Thomas Tuchel, I do think, is going to take advantage of. And I think it's something that is going to work greatly in PSG's favor. And it's not only going to be about the players he signs, it's also going to be about the players he can make better. For instance, I think somebody like Presnel Kimpembe or even Marquinhos could go just that extra mile under Thomas Tuchel, because they are two very fast, mobile, agile players. Very good, amazing center backs. Something that Thomas Tuchel certainly isn't known for, but if you take into account that they want to pressure really high, really intense, like Thomas Tuchel has done with Dortmund and then previously at Mainz, I think, under this PSG side, you have two fast center backs such as Marquinhos and Kimpembe. They could have they wouldn't want something else. They can have a lot of space for them to work around with. For instance, Liverpool, they have Van Dijk, but Lovren is really slow. But if you have Marquinhos, who's, let's say, the Van Dijk for PSG, and then you have Kimpembe, which is such a better player than Lovren, then you have a much better defense overall, and that I think those two players could really thrive under Thomas Tuchel. One player who I think is going to be amazing under him is going to be Giovanni Lo Celso. I think Lo Celso is not like FIFA where you see he's a cam, he's a number 10. No, he's much more of like a number 8. He's that player who works around the pitch so much. I think that him under Tuchel could be a great star and somebody to look out for. I really think he's going to improve in the next few seasons a lot. Like, I mean a lot. He could be a starter by the end of next season. He's such a great player, and I think under Tuchel, about having that work ethic, being that hard-working player, that high work rates, he could be very good. On the other hand, however, there are some negatives that we must take into account. For instance, there are some players who definitely are not going to fit much well into Thomas Tuchel formation and Thomas Tuchel philosophy. For instance, Edinson Cavani, I do not think he's going to be the best guy for the job. He's certainly a gentleman of football. He's such good in every single role that he plays as a striker. I think he's very good, but I do not see him fitting so well into that formation. Perhaps it's going to change out into Thomas Tuchel, a different philosophy. Perhaps he will try to stick with the 4-3-3. I mean, that Cavani could be very good, but we have to see. There are players, there are clubs, like Atletico Madrid and Juventus, who are interested. So if he decides to leave, I don't think it's going to be the end of the world for PSG, but I certainly think he's going to stay. So like I said, there are some players that are not going to fancy these changes. There are some players who are not going to fancy the new style of play. And that's going to be something for Thomas Tuchel to deal with, because he isn't necessarily a great manager with egos. We don't know it because we haven't never seen it. Dortmund never had really big egos. Like, I mean, the biggest ego in that side is probably Aubameyang, and that's not even a huge ego. So it's all going to be about whether can he work that around. It's all going to be if he can basically grab the team by the neck and tell them, like, this is the way we're going to do it, and this is the way I want to play. And if you don't want, you are out. So he has to work all around that. And I do not think he's the best man for that, but we're just gonna have to wait and see. There are some negatives certainly for Thomas Tuchel taking over PSG. Fans may be worried that he hasn't got enough experience, but like I said, I think it's gonna be more than good because he has that overall spice of a manager, that he's going to change this team for a Champions League winning team. But in the long run, let's remember, all the media and stuff that we hate in this channel, they talk about the short term, but you cannot win about a Champions League in the short term. You can spend as much money as you want, and you're not going to win the Champions League. The last team to win a Champions League who wasn't in the Hall of Fame was Chelsea. And Chelsea, although they spend a lot of cash, they actually stay with most of their players go out through 2-3 seasons and then win the Champions League. Something that Manchester City and PSG, for instance, are not doing. So it's all going to be about the long run, and I do think Thomas Tuchel can take this win to win the Champions League, but we have to give him time, and we have to give him the faith that he deserves. Hopefully you have enjoyed this video. Please remember to drop us a like and also to leave us a subscribe, turn on the bell notification icon, and follow us on all other social media to keep up to date. See you in the next one. Take care. Ciao.